Information is power.
Tell the truth.
Information is power.
Information Man Show. Okay, everybody. This is the Information Man Show. Thank you for those of you that are coming into the chat room. I was up pretty late last night with India Declare show. Me and that sister go back a long time. She's a blog talk radio host. She was part of US Talk Radio Network that myself and Lions Den were a part of. I want to say peace to a few people that are in the chat room right now. We got Brittany. Hey, I want to thank you for coming over, sister. I've seen you in other chat rooms. Thank you for coming over. We got the Princess Show, who's just come in, saying what's up. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. Oh, Spotify, you changed your name. Okay, we got Spotify. I haven't seen you in a while. Where you been? Spotify. Bonafide 1970. Thank you for coming in, and make sure that you share the video. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to be, how sometimes we get into controversial issues on my show. We talk about a little bit of everything: politics, social issues, cultural issues, racial issues. We can get into some pretty heated issues. We talk about immigration. We talked about everything last night as well, like that. But today, I have a young lady on that I've had the pleasure of interacting with. She did an internship where I work. She's studying to become what we call a music therapist. Music therapist. You have art therapists, you have music therapists, you have recreational therapists, which I am. And she's had the pleasure of engaging and working and using music therapy to deal with some of the guys that I deal with in the prison system in California. And we're going to talk to her in a moment. I'm going to disengage the screen so that you can see her and myself. We're going to talk to her about music therapy. What does it mean? What's its history? How did it get started? Why is it important? Now, I've said this before, that music is the only thing that can enter your self-conscious mind without your permission. Without your permission. It's very powerful. Let me go ahead. Something I want to bring up to folks right now. Music therapy is a clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish individual goals within a therapeutic relationship by an accredited professional who has complete and approved music therapy program. Completed a music therapy program, okay? A music therapist is established in health profession in which music is used within a therapeutic relationship to address physical, emotional, cognitive, and social needs of an individual. After assessing the strengths and needs of each client, the qualified music therapist provides the indicated treatments, including creating singing, movement to and listening to music through musical involvement in therapeutic context. I'm gonna stop right there and get more into this what I've just said to everybody out there. I'm gonna let Miss Gaines take it away, break down some more things because she's the professional. She's the one that's studying, that's gonna be in this field as a professional, and most importantly, why I'm doing this video, this podcast today, which will be ported over to different podcasting platforms. These are some of the platforms that I use.
The Information Man podcast can be heard on 9 major platforms, on the second YouTube channel as well, Information Man Speaks Podcast. Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Castbox, SoundCloud, and finally, Spreaker.
And so those are some of the platforms that you can hear the podcast on. I do have a second channel, which is the Information Man show. Information Man Speaks podcast. I'm sorry about that little boo-boo on my part, folks. But that's the second channel right there. Check it out. If you haven't already checked it out, go over and subscribe to that channel. It's matter of fact, it's in the breakdown of my channel. If you scroll down in my channel where I have my videos on the home page of my channel, you'll see the second channel. You can go over there and subscribe because I'm going to be doing a lot of podcasts, getting into a lot of issues over there, a little bit different than what I do over here. I'm going to be using the first channel and getting back to what I used to do more, which is doing interviews with people and then doing pre-produced videos. I'm going to do more of that type of stuff, definitely. So check out the second channel and let my crows out. I gotta let my crows be free. I love my birds, and here they go. There go my crows going by. Now let me disengage from the screen here from this right here. And Miss Gaines, how you doing? How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your show, Information Man.
All right. I've been wanting to get you on here ever since we talked when you were leaving for Europe. You were taking some time off after completing the internship at my place of employment. I didn't work with you as closely as others in our department, but we had a chance to have some interaction. I think particularly that day when I was up on one of the units and I was covering an actual group that was music related. And you came in and assisted me, and we kind of talked a little bit about that. And I told you my background as it relates to the violin, which is why I put the violin on the screen in the beginning of the show, right?
Yeah.
About the violin and how I've been playing since I was 10 years old. I got a little burned out. My mother plays. I got family. And I told you about this guy right here. He's legendary to me because this is a Black man who my mother played his music in the household, blew me away. He's got now I wasn't able to get the whole violin in this picture, but this is from his album cover. This is Newell Pointer. And let me put that up there right now for everybody to see. Now, this brother is classic. Okay. He unfortunately passed away. My mother, if she sees this video, she's going to love me for this. This man, you've got to check out his music. You can download it on your iPhones, your Google. This brother was fantastic. Now in the picture, he's got the rest of the violin. And so as a kid, that mesmerized me because I didn't normally see Black men and Black people in general growing up playing the violin. We're usually being associated with trumpets and horns and things of that nature, drums.
Yep.
But I do know the history, and you tell me, correct me if I'm right, Miss Gaines. Some of the first fiddlers were Black people, particularly Black men on the plantations during slavery in this country. Many of the musical instruments, like the violin and the guitar, a lot of them have their roots in Europe. I remember when I was in college, I took a class on Black cinema and music, and they talked about how when Europeans went over to the continent of Africa, a lot of what you see in Beethoven's music and classical music and the instruments, a lot of it was sort of like back in the day when I used to break dance, we called it biting. They kind of bit a little bit of the stuff from Africa to come up with these string instruments like the violin, guitars, things of that nature, bass. And so so when I saw this picture of this brother, it blew me away at that time because, you know, I didn't see that. And his music is hypnotic, powerful. I really wish I could have played some of his music, but I can't do that because on YouTube, you'll get a copyright.
Yeah.
I can play the music on my regular podcasting platforms. I won't get a copyright for that, but on YouTube, I can't do it, or I would play some of his music. So let me disengage from that picture there. That's the guy I was talking about. Let me see. Let me show some messages of people that are in the chat room right now. Okay, we got the Princess X show. Hey, I'm so glad to have you here. She said, it's cool. I'm subbing over there too now. Thank you for coming over and subbing to the channel. I appreciate it. This is a subject matter that may not be as sexy to people, you know, as some of the stuff that we talk about on YouTube, because we're not talking about stuff that's polarizing but this is a good subject matter. Now, and because this is a good subject matter, a nice, clean subject matter, the video is going to be definitely monetized with commercials and the whole 9 yards. But let me see. Bonafide. Okay, I'm saying the name right. Bonafide 1970 comes back over today. Haven't seen you in a long time. Come on back over. You're a moderator on my channel. We need to be very careful about the music that we listen to. Yes, true. She said, I
agree.
It has its effect. Even if there's not there's not so evident at first, the effects accumulate and build for better or for worse. You're absolutely right. Let me give you a clap for that. And Miss Gaines, and now check this out.
Yes.
Princess X show says, I believe music can be therapy. Yes, Miss Princess.
I believe so too.
Princess X, I'm telling you right now, it is effective because this young lady and myself, we see it. I see it every day at work with the things that I do. And with folks like this young lady, is what she's done interning where I work at, and the things that I've seen people I've been in the business of what I do for over 25 years. So I've worked in other facilities and I've seen the effectiveness of music therapy, recreational therapy, and we can't forget art therapy and trauma therapy that all work on your physical, your spiritual, your social, your cognitive motor skills. It works on all of that. Believe it or not, in music, as I was reading before, I have a chart here that shows the brain and how all the different cortex and all the areas of the brain. You probably know this better than I do, Miss Gaines. How music actually has a effect. Music. I mean, why do you think they use music in movies and television? Because they want to set a mood. And you know, when you're watching a scary movie and they go bump, 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 and your heart has a effect. So Miss Gaines, I definitely, if we have time today, I definitely want you to get into the statement that she left there about, can music be for the best for us or the worst?
Okay.
And I don't want it to be, okay, Bonafide said, Information Man Show, thank you for the welcome back, my brother. Yeah, you need to come back around here more. I was up late last night. We had a nice little crowd in here last night. And so that's the people we have so far. I will put more messages in as people come in. Does she use brainwave frequencies? Brainwave frequencies. Wow, that's a good question. And I can't pronounce that person's name. It's Tajira. How do you pronounce that? That's Turnit. I'm not saying
Tishiri.
Tishiri. I think Tishiri. And this person said, this is a good question. Does she use brainwave frequencies? Now, I know that they have this thing called biofeedback that we've been using in the system when it comes to therapy with guys who have mental health issues. Biofeedback. Have you heard of anything like that in music therapy where they're using something like brainwave frequencies?
Not in the literature that I've seen. I actually had a brief moment before I went to internship to look up whether tuning can impact the results that we see in our music therapy and its efficacy. But I have not seen anyone practice it, nor have I seen anything in the literature to support its use yet. As far as I know, mostly, I would assume, I cannot make any concrete answers, but I would assume that most of the research that's done is based off of equal temperament, where A is 432, or maybe higher or lower depending on the region that you're in around the world. But other than that, I do not personally use brainwave frequencies, but I also don't know if that's something that we will be delving into the further we get along in music therapy.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up a couple of questions that folks put in the chat room, and then I want you to take it from there.
Oh, okay.
You know who you are, why you want to be therapy, all the good stuff. We have Princess X Show who says, I honestly didn't know that music therapy was a thing, but I use music often, okay, for many different moods. Really glad getting more insight on this. And I'm glad that you're over here. Now, someone put this in there. Soft ego tones. I'm not saying stuff right.
Solfeggio?
528. Yeah, soft geo, tone 528 and 432, etc. Have you heard that before?
Yeah. Yes, depending on the hertz, those will create different pitches. But I don't know if I've ever tried to isolate one, for example, for the purpose of meditation or for relaxation, at least not yet.
Okay, so Miss Gaines, this is going to be interesting. This has the potential to be one of my better, more psychological type of dreams here, where we're getting in this, because my show was a little rough on the edge. I get edgy. We get into these social issues, but really, what we're talking about right now is really what I've always wanted this channel to really be about, and I wanted the other channel to be more of the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm making some changes on this channel with bringing people more stuff like this, because one of the things that I've been preaching about is that on YouTube in particular, particularly in Black YouTube that I've been a part of, we spend a lot of time talking about what's wrong with the Black community, what's wrong with Black women, what's wrong with Black men, what's wrong with these issues that we have. And I'm oftentimes saying, okay, we know we have problems, we have issues in some of our communities, not all, some of our communities, because Black people come in all different walks of life, poor, rich, upper middle class. Matter of fact, 2.5 million Black men have actually moved into the upper middle class in this country right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't change the fact that we have certain social problems. So a lot of times we talk about social problems, but the most important thing we need to focus on is solutions. Right. And so this program that I'm doing with you today, this podcast, this show today is getting to solutions, which I really like. So with that said, what I want you to do now is let everybody know exactly who you are, what made you go into music therapy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get it. Go right ahead, sister.
All right. Well, let's see. I guess the first place to start at is growing up, I came from a pretty musical family. My grandparents had siblings who would play all sorts of instruments. They played the piano, they played stringed instruments as well. And my grandmother was really into having everyone be a part of church choir. And one of the big defining moments that I think kind of led me to music therapy is kind of my curiosity to see what else was out there music-wise. I was kind of rebellious and didn't want to just sing. So I was always looking for an opportunity to play anything else that was music related. And I remember one day when I was about 8 going on to 9, I was watching this PBS show where they were showing, I think, Swan Lake, and they show a clip of the pit in the orchestra pit. And
Right.
I point to one of the people playing and I'm like, I want to play this instrument, this one specific instrument. And it ends up being the violin. So I asked my mother if I can play, and she goes, well, I don't know, we can see if that'll happen. Because at the time, my mom was a single parent and money is not always easily abundant. And then it just kind of seemed like the path just laid itself out before me. Shortly after asking her, there was a violinist who came to the school and said, I'm offering violin lessons. Does anyone want to learn? And he offered it at a very reduced rate. So at the age of 9, I started my violin journey. Since then, for me, it was like a whole new world was opened up. At the time, as you're going through like growing changes and growing pains of being like an adolescent and figuring out who you are in life and how you fit into your like family group and the outer world group, I felt like playing the violin opened up a lot of doors for me to be able to interact with people and make these decisions about my identity. And then also, it kind of gave me more insight on how I can improve as a better person. And gave me this notion that if music can do all of this for me, then I want to be able to give back to my community to a similar, if not greater capacity. So in high school, still continuing the violin, of course, throughout all of those years, I was getting to the point where I had to pick my degree, and I knew I specifically did not want to be a performer because I felt like I couldn't connect with the people watching me as closely as I wanted to. But at the same time, I didn't want to be a music educator because that I felt would take away a lot of time for me to continue to maintain a healthy relationship with music for myself. So I actually took a career quiz online, and one of the options for me was a music therapist. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. All of the college recruits coming into my high school didn't even suggest this as an option. I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't even know that it was within my state to go and study, which is in Kansas, by the way. So I did some research. I looked up some schools that had it. And I kind of boiled down my 2 options between the College of Worcester, which is in Worcester, Ohio, and the University of Kansas as a backup. My interest, in addition to wanting to help other people with music, was to travel and see things outside of my immediate scope. And I was accepted to both. But because one was a private school and the other was a state school, it was cheaper for me to afford the state school, which ended up being the really, quite frankly, a blessing. It's one of the older music therapy schools, so it has a bigger reputation. And then, as well as that, it's very well known for its research and its high level of education for music therapists. So
okay, let me stop you right there because I'm going to let you continue. I got more people coming into the chat room. I want to say to this brother right here, Cap PY2. He actually plays guitar. He has a YouTube channel, and occasionally he plays guitar. So he's into music. I got a wonderful sister right here, Mrs. Fable. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correct, sister, but you say she came in. She got a beautiful red scarf on her head, beautiful smile. Love it. And then we got a sister named Tasha who was with me last night, rocking with me last night. She says, good morning from California. She's from High Desert. And I know something about High Desert. High Desert has a prison. There's a prison up there in High Desert. And most of the guys that I have dealt with over the years, they don't like High Desert, that prison up there, because they feel that there's racial issues. Every guy that I've dealt with over the years, I tend to have believed it because it's a consistent theme that a lot of the guys that I've dealt with over the years have said that particular prison in High Desert has issues. So she says, good morning from High Desert. And that's way up there I think up northern part of California, very high up there. And let me see who else we got coming in. We got the N Susu. Hey, peace to you. Thank you for being here. I'm really bad with names. Princess X says, whoa, what an amazing journey. Definitely sounds like a great choice. Definitely. Yes, yes, yes. Cat PY2 is in the house. Let me see what she says. Yes. Tasha says yes. Thank you all for coming in. This is not a sexy topic we're talking about. I'm not up here talking about the man's got us down, right? I'm not talking about the things that really gets us polarized, right? I'm talking about the issue of, we're talking about music therapy, particularly on how music therapy is useful and effective for particularly Black people. And let me read this off again. I'm sounding like I'm repeating myself, but I must, because we got new people coming in. Music therapy is a critical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish individual goals within therapeutic relationships by accredited professionals who have completed a approved musical therapy program. Music is a establishing health profession in which music is used within a therapeutic relationship to address physical, emotional, cognitive, and social needs of individuals. After assessing the strengths and needs of each client, the qualified music therapist provides the indicated treatment, including creating, singing, moving, 30 for a therapeutic context. Okay, music therapy also provides avenues for communication that can be helpful to those who find it difficult to express themselves in words. That is completely true. I can also say this, Ms. Gaines, when I've dealt with guys who have drug problems, and they engage in certain, the music can be used to deal with their drug problems, because as you know, many of the music that we listen to are some of the classics. A lot of these artists or bands, a lot of them have admitted themselves that they were under the influence of some type of substance when they were writing and producing music, and it was opening up a gateway to something else. And I'm going to get into that about how music can open up a gateway to something where else. So did you agree with any of the things that I just rattled off there, that I just read there?
Completely agree with all of it.
Okay. So it's your show. Continue on, sister. Let me see who else is coming. We got people coming in little by little. It's early. Oh, we got Postal Studios in the house. Postal Studios is in the house. Let me give them a clap. Hey, I'm glad to have Postal Studios in the house. I'm sorry if I'm not saying their name right. I'm really bad with names and pronunciations. But look, this is a great channel right here, folks. I go over there. I'm a moderator on that channel. They help people to grow their platforms. They give you tips on how to create your channel art, everything. They say here, Information Man Show, hey there, great to catch you live, and cheers to all from woo, they're from Canada, Montreal.
That's awesome.
That's really awesome. But I really like their channel. They have a mixture of everybody over there. Everybody goes there. Black folks, white people, everybody goes over to their channel because they really do a great job of supporting. And they also give us clues as to how YouTube is operating. Like, for example, because of Postal Studios, I have a document in my possession that gives me some indications of what you should not say on YouTube, because YouTube algorithms have these buzzwords that you want to stay away from. So everybody, if you want to grow your channels, you want to get cutting edge information, and you want to be a part of a family of people that are following this channel where people really are enjoying themselves, no drama, this is the channel that you need to check out. I had to give them a roaring review there, and here's a clap for them again. Definitely. You won't regret subbing to that channel. No. They are doing a great, we don't supposed to use the word sub, and all that kind of stuff, but go over there and give them love. You won't regret it. There's a lot of people within, what's great about their channel, Miss Gaines and everyone listening, is that it's a place where a lot of smaller YouTubers of all different races are going, and they're getting a lot of good information, and people are helping each other. The stream is fun. The music that they play is fun. His wife and him are very fun. They're very fun.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm saying I've got to expand my channel within YouTube and not keep myself in a box, because there's so many people on YouTube that are doing a lot of positive stuff. We got Empress here who said she said she's got to go check out the channel. So definitely go ahead and do that. We got my man Tony Smith who's coming. He says peace info man in chat. Thank you everybody. People are coming in little by little. It's kind of early. I know it's Saturday. People have things they have to do, but I really appreciate everybody who has come in. That's here. He says you're welcome, Mr. The Nsusu. Thank you for being here. And so let me go back to you, Miss Gaines.
Yes.
Music therapy. Come on, break it down to us. Give us a little bit more insight into it. So you've given us a little taste of why you went into it, but give us more. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess transitioning to the actual degree itself, I distinctly remember one of the most, like, the first thought that came to mind. I ended up taking my degree in state, but one of the first things that came to mind is, wow, there's a there's a really big transition from my experience in high school to my experience at my college. And that was primarily because it was, I was the only Black student in my music therapy graduating class at the time. And to me, I at first thought it was kind of weird that I would have that response, but I guess it kind of makes sense because in my high school, the minority was the majority essentially. So there are lots of multicultural and intercultural things happening at the same time. But a lot of the things that I tended to do for my music therapy degree was very Eurocentric. And while we do cater to clients who are of many different backgrounds, racially included, the way that we trained did not fully fit with how I grew up identifying as Black, if that makes sense. So I enjoyed learning everything about music therapy and getting to work with other people. But then I would have like small moments where we have music assessments, and you're required, for example, to learn. So when you first start, you start with learning like 5 or 10 songs at a time, of course, memorizing and being able to play it on a guitar or a piano, and then also sing and transpose those songs just to prepare for any accommodations you'd have to make in a session. And then as your years go on through sophomore, junior, senior, you learn more and more songs. So what was once 5 or 10 becomes 20 for the next year, then becomes 40 to 60, then even up to 100 for your very last year before you can go to internship. And for the list that they give us to like the songs that you should absolutely know, because these are the songs that are most requested by clients, it was very surprising to me to not see as many artists that I grew up listening to, like Stevie Wonder, for example, or Luther Vandross, or even like Mary Mary, if you're looking for like gospel music. But they did have like small samples of Michael Jackson or Bob Marley. So
Information is power.
me being a very rebellious person, I would come into my music assessments and I would learn some of the songs that were on the list, but I would purposefully learn more songs that were not on the list, but I thought needed to be there. And one of my favorite memories of learning would be bringing Bill Withers into my pre-internship music assessment. But that's a little tangent. But in addition to that, throughout my degree, it's been really, really great. The faculty were really supportive, knowing that I came from a background where I didn't have as much financial access to afford the upkeep of instruments or to afford even the instruments themselves. I had many opportunities to just kind of talk and vent all of my struggles, both on a musical and personal level, and they accepted it without any judgment. And it was from these same people that also I was able to get the opportunity to even intern at the facility that Information Man was just mentioning earlier in this podcast. And for that, I'm very grateful for all of them. Let's see. I guess to kind of give some history on music therapy, it has quite a pretty interesting history. Music therapy actually kind of started getting its bearings shortly after World War I and World War II. Musicians, both on a professional and amateur level, would come to veterans at their bedside and would play for all of them suffering both physical and emotional traumas from the war. And as the need for more people grew to perform for these people in the medical setting, it was decided that there needed to be more clinical training as well to provide the most high quality care for these people at their bedsides. So music therapy started taking on a biomedical model and then also became more effective as a therapy with its clinical and evidence-based research use. In music therapy, it can be used for many different areas, not just in the hospital setting. Music therapy can be used in schools, in prison settings, in psychiatric facilities. You can use it in outpatient care, nursing homes, hospice centers even. And of course, my interest right now is in the correctional and mental health setting. But I've had clinical experiences that have allowed me to work with people in most of these groups throughout my college degree for about 6 months at a time.
Let me
I think that's about it for now.
you're getting some you're getting rave reviews in the chat room. Poster Studios, just so you know, brother, I just modded you up. You're a moderator on my channel now, just as I am on your channel. But he says I have played music. He says this is interesting. He says I have played music my whole life and worked for a large distributing company.
Mm-hmm.
Distributing company. Music therapy. Music therapy.
Oops.
Oops. There's some
I
feedback.
think we're lagging.
Yeah, I think there's some lagging in the stream. This is something that they're gonna have to improve on StreamYards. There's some issues there, but he basically said that
Gotcha.
he worked with distributing music instruments and things of that nature, and that he's always been a supporter of organizations that use music therapy, and he still believes that that it benefits heavily. Right? There's a young lady in here who said, "Let me see, Poster Studios is back." He says, "Oh wow, don't need to do it, but thank you." No, I do need to do that because you got a hell of a platform and program over there, and you got me as a moderator over there. So I'm gonna give respect back to respect that's been given to me, and you've been very supportive of on your channel with helping people to grow their channels. So I definitely got to give you that respect. But let me see something. Thank you, sister. There's some folks in who said some things. There's one sister right here, Express. She said that she has a migraine and sometimes she needs to listen to music to help her sleep. Right?
Yeah.
Let me see some folks here. Oh, okay. We got, hey, I'm a number 39394 on your channel. Okay. That's Brother Tony Smith saying a few words there. But I wanted to get to the meat of what some people are saying. Only you can prevent grade 23 for far. Whoa. Are you familiar with what he just said there?
Great thumbs. Great thumbs.
Interesting. I'm trying to get to some comments that when you were speaking. Let me see. Oh, this is what I have to get to. Captain PY2. I know this brother well. He's a veteran. He's a veteran of the military. He's the one I told you that plays guitar.
Yeah.
He says that music therapy with various wavelengths are used in the VA hospital for combat veterans. It's pretty unique. It helps with mood, sleep, and mindfulness. Right. We use mindfulness where I work at Mr. Cap, PY2 Cap. Yes. I was going to say this, that I did an internship at the VA in San Francisco years ago. And we were using music therapy and all these different modalities and therapies to help people deal with their stress, their depression. And then a lot of guys were hearing voices. I'm gonna give you an example. This is powerful in my opinion. Very powerful. We had a guy when I did my internship who was riding around in his wheelchair with a radio. And I'm never going to forget when this happened. And I said to my instructor at the time that was supervising me, why is that guy rolling around with a radio all the time in this nursing home? He's constantly got that, you know what, radio on constantly, right? And she told me, you know, Mr. Such and Such, if he did not have that radio, he would go absolutely bunkers crazy. He would go whatever. And I'd be wondering why. You know why? Because when he was in, I think, Vietnam or in the military, he was a gunner. And when he was a gunner, whatever, and Kat would probably know what I'm talking about because he was in the military, he was shell shocked. He could hear the gun shells in his head. He could hear the bombing, the blast. And so the music, the radio, and listening to music would soothe him internally, the brain waves, to cut out the clutter of hearing stuff because he was experiencing what PTSD. I'm having say it by Miss Gaines because I'm having a tongue twist right now.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, perhaps?
Yeah, post-traumatic stress syndrome. He was experiencing that situation.
Gotcha. Yeah.
PTSD. Yeah. That's right. And I should know this. And so it was helping him tremendously. And he told me himself personally, this really helps me. I enjoy my radio. And anytime they would he didn't have that radio, he would go crazy. Where is my radio? Right. And not only did he enjoy the radio, but they also had to kick him out of the VA because what they found out is that he was, they had to get it. They had to get him out of there because he was also having ladies of the night that were coming into the nursing home there was all these women coming in acting like they was his wife or his girlfriends or whatever. They were actually prostitutes that he was having a good time with in the room of the
Wow.
So it was a funny time, but and just like music therapy, recreational therapy started out during World War I and II, World War I in particular, where it was the VA and the various homes for veterans, where men had to learn how to walk again. They came back from war with arms off, limbs torn. And so we have the origins in that. Matter of fact, recreational therapy actually comes out of occupational therapy originally. And when I was at the VA, I worked with an occupational therapist there. And believe it or not, there were people who have strokes. And when you have a stroke, one side of your body is going to go limp on you or down, right? And they were doing ceramics. And he says, people look at ceramics and say, oh, this is some goofy ceramics. How is this helping the person? Ceramics helps the fine motor skills, your ability to pay attention and concentrate, and help you to work those your cognitive and your motor skills in general. And if a person has a hard time using their arms, you want to get that repetitive stroking of this person was painting something, they were putting something together. They were putting something together, and it really did have an effect positively on the patients that I had a chance to observe and work with at that time, many years ago. But Ms. Gaines, this is your show. Take it over from there. Anything you want to add? And based on what I've said, the importance of how music therapy helps veterans, and the importance of how it is relevant to the Black community. Because you said when you were in school that you were one of a few people doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So which one do I want to start with first? I guess let me branch off of the PTSD comment that we talked about. That I think it gives a good start into kind of talking about like the ways that music therapy can be effective. So one big misconception about music therapy is, so you're a music therapist, you just go in and sing with the patient or you play for the patient. And while these are things we can do, that's definitely just surface level things that we do with the patient. As mentioned before, we're working on multiple dimensions of a person's well-being. So like if it is a person who is suffering from PTSD, we're looking at all of the itty bitty details of music. So how the timbre, the sound of an instrument, how that's going to impact a patient who may have PTSD, whether it might trigger a response or not, because of how sharp or how loud that sound is going to be, and how that could potentially like recreate a gunshot sound or something like that. Obviously, we don't want to cause harm. That's one of the biggest rules in music therapy.
Let me just say this, Ms. Gaines, I don't mean to cut you off, because it goes to what you're talking about right now. It's relevant, believe me. Brother Cap PY2 says that the reason why they probably use the radio for him, he says it's to block out the ringing in the ear and focus on the music to keep the mind off the war trauma. Cap, you're on the money. I'm giving you thunder for that.
Information is power.
Tell the truth.
Completely agree with that. And also, you know, kind of going into some of the neurological factors. Sometimes the way that music is played can really impact the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems. So if you're playing something that may likely agitate someone or prompt them to feel triggered, then it most likely would happen, because you're setting up all of these different elements of music to kind of create a more energetic or elevated sense of awareness or reaction from a person. So yeah, I completely agree with the comment that was made there. It can also be used to distract a person from thinking about those past memories. And some other elements I think are in play too. So in music therapy, we look at not only just the timbre, the sound quality of the instrument. We look at volume, how loud or soft music can be. We look at the melody of a song or an instrumental piece. We look at the harmony, so how the chords are coming together, because those can influence mood. We look at the style of music for more culturally relevant situations, for an example, and then also things like lyrics. And that is one of my personal big interests in music therapy, because it really gets people thinking, like, why do people write songs the way that they do? And how can you use lyrics to influence a person's actions or their thoughts in the future? So yeah, music therapy is very effective for dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder and other diagnoses that you might find in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. But also you can work on things like strokes. Like Information Man had said, there's a lot going into painting. There's gross motor, so how far you can extend your arm to reach the canvas. You've got fine motor, how much you're gripping the paintbrush, and then also like the little fine details of moving your fingers to maneuver or manipulate the brush. And in those same ways, we do that in music too. So patients are also asked to engage in music to the best of their ability. We don't ask them to come in having this big expertise knowledge on music. It's where you're at with the strengths that you have at this current moment in time. So if we are working with a stroke patient, and I've worked with a stroke patient before, she, for example, she chose to use a tambourine as her instrument to kind of work on gross motor skills, large movements. And then also her fine motor skills came from tapping the skin head of the tambourine, and then also gripping the tambourine itself to some songs that she really, really liked. Oh, and that's also important to mention. Another big thing about music therapy is that we try and prioritize the patient's interest in music first. Generally, if you're interested in the music, you're more inclined to be motivated to work towards treatment, your treatment goals. But something that came up in the comments earlier that I strongly agree with is that you have to be really careful about the types of songs that you do bring into a session. As I mentioned before, music can cause harm, so you really have to think about if the lyrics themselves are helping promote a positive transition out of a state that the person no longer wants to be in, or if it's going to cause some kind of hurt in the future. So while we do try and incorporate the music that a patient likes, if there is something that we can't use right now, we may try and make modifications by creating our own music to fit the client's needs. Or we may do something like take the main melody and harmony of a song, but if the lyrics are no good, we might change the lyrics a bit, or we might keep the lyrics, change the harmonic structure so that it has a different mood or a different tone, things like that.
Let me just say this, because you talked about the DSM-4, and I know it as, I think Access 1 is the actual disease or the condition that a person has. If I'm not mistaken. In Access 2, we talk about this at my job all the time. Is this guy, is it his behavior? I think Access 2 is around behavior of the individual. And in Access 3, if I'm not mistaken, is the medical condition of a person. Like, for example, do they have some type of disease, some kind of mom and dad, some kind of problem with their body physically? So you got the physical part, you have the personality part of the DSM-4, and it's I think it's DSM-5 now. It keeps changing.
Yeah.
And then you have DSM-1, which is the condition that the person comes to you with, right? And many times over the years working where I work, where you've been interning, we're trying to figure out, is this guy legitimately mentally ill, or is this just behavior? And they've even changed that. Behavior, I think it's no longer called behavior. They're looking at personality disorders.
Right.
Things of that nature. Now, let everybody know. Let me read a couple of things in here first. But we got Nicole is in the house. She says, Cap, are you glad that you are coping well with it? Yeah, Cap is, like I told you, he's a brother who is a veteran, plays music. He says that he has to listen to music at night still because of the trauma and the experience of his military experience has had on him, the impact. And someone is saying to him right now, hope that you are coping well with it, my brother. You are a leading light for others dealing with this issue. This is very important stuff right here. Now, let me also say to you right now, Ms. Gaines, that I thank you for coming on with me today.
Oh, thank you for letting me share.
What you've just done for me is you have now rebooted me to get back to what this channel was supposed to be, and it was always really about. When I used to interview people, you are now making me realize that I've got to get back to this type of material. I do get into the other polarizing issues, as I told you on here. I can get on here and sound like Malcolm X or somebody, and people will be like, "Oh shit, I'm unsubscribing." Right? Some people, right? Yeah. I can get raw with it like that, like I was last night. But this is really on a mental and psychological level. This is really what the show is really all about. And then I got my man Art. He says, yes, sir. Sound and touch gives vibrations. Vibrations are very important. We want to talk about that too. Nicole, CNC, that's all they want to do is peel us up. Now, that's a big deal because you've noticed where we've worked or where you were at that a lot of guys are always saying they don't want to be doped up with pills. They're saying that they're sick of them. So I'm sick of you always trying to give us pills all the time and pilling me up. I want to talk to you about that, but let me go back into these comments. So that's an issue. We in Americans, I don't know how it is in Canada. Pusha Studios, tell us how it is in Canada, but in America, it seems like all of our what do you call it? Our answers to problems is pills. Take a pill, and we don't use enough holistic treatments. Now, they are catching on in America, but they're not like they're not being sold to you the way synthetic drugs are being sold to us, right? They're not being marketed. You don't I mean, there's not no commercials on television talking about music therapy, recreational therapy, art therapy, drama therapy, all that kind of stuff. And I've seen the effectiveness of drama therapy working with kids in the past, but we don't have those commercials on TV, right? But you do have the pharmaceuticals taking front stage on everything. And Cap is right about that. In that work, we see guys saying all the time, I don't want pills. Pusa Studio says it's the same here with our veterans here in Canada. Things really need to change so you all get what you truly deserve for what you gave up. Exactly. I'm not going to argue with his statements at all. No, I said a whole bunch. as best as you can, because I get excited and I start rattling off things.
Hey, it
How does
happens.
music therapy as a holistic treatment and the things that I read off, what's the key to it?
I think that
Tell the truth.
it's important to keep in mind that music therapy does not cure. So while music is very effective, and I believe that it is more than we give it credit, since it is involved in many different areas of our lives and across the world, I think that there is potential for it to be a really effective way to help address a lot of behavioral issues, mental health diagnoses, even just managing your own stress if you feel that you are healthy and not with any of these other things that I mentioned before. But then I do acknowledge that there is some importance to actually taking medicine. But I think the issue is that because it's a therapy, not all of the problems that you're trying to solve can just be done. Whereas with medicine, if you have a headache, you could just take some Tylenol, you could take ibuprofen, and then it's gone in an hour. Working towards getting to a point where you feel better, and not just better for the short term, but for the long term, takes some time. And even without research says that sometimes it can take maybe up from 6 to 12 or more sessions in order for you to really get the gist of what you're trying to address in a therapeutic session. But not many people have the patience, and nor do we really allow that in our society. Everything is very fast-paced, or fast food, I like to think. So I think that there is some truth to that you can't really, I can understand from the patient's perspective, there are a lot of pills just being forced upon us to take, and that's supposed to solve all of the issues that we have. No. But also in that matter, I think there needs to just be a more healthy balance. But in the US, there isn't really much support for the music and arts to actually do its thing. So I think that's kind of why we're seeing more presence from pharmaceutical companies or from other major medicines, instead of seeing more advertisement about music therapy or art therapy, drama therapy, rec, occupational, and so on and so forth.
Why do you think, Ms. Gaines, why do you think that is? And then you're much younger than me. I'm 49, and sometimes people don't think I'm that age. I don't look it. I got some gray hairs coming in. So I look at myself in the mirror this morning. I'm saying, God, I'm changing.
I am changing.
But let me just say this. Real quick. You are, I hate to put people in these boxes and labels, but are the millennial generation? Are you okay?
Yes.
For my generation, I think the day may come for your generation, as you grow, as you gain more wisdom and you grow older, that you may see these particular therapies being cutting edge.
Oh, definitely.
More than they are now. If I'm not mistaken, Pusa Studios is from Canada. And I know when I was in school that Canada has always been ahead of us when it comes to holistic treatment. Matter of fact, recreational therapy has more of a, if I'm not mistaken, maybe he can correct me, Pusa Studio, since he lives in Canada, Montreal, I think he lives. I think recreational therapy is respected up there. These kind of therapies are very well taken. What you're doing, I think when you go to other countries, they respect this type of stuff more than America does. It's a shame. And then let me tell you something else too. I was at Napa State, California, Napa State, one of the famous old school psych program. I went there years ago, and there is a psychiatrist called Dr. Hare. Pusa Studio may be familiar with this man. And he told us at Napa State that one year, he said that he showed us brain charts and all kinds of stuff about people who are psychopaths. He said there's no treatment for psychopaths, and that California should not use the recovery model system, which they paid millions of dollars for, right? Big corporations are behind it, to roll out this recovery model system that does not work with psychopaths. And he has always been very critical of some of the treatment modalities that America, and particularly California, has gotten themselves in, which has cost the state lots of money. Well, not too long ago, I was talking to one of our colleagues in the office, the office I'm talking about, and she's a music therapist. You know who I'm talking about. I'm gonna get her on this program. I'd like to get both of you on this program. And she said that she found documents showing that recovery model system did not improve of guys that are in the prison. It was a big waste. And she said to me that the things that don't cost a lot of money are effective, but they don't want to use them enough. And the things that cost money are not working, but the state's spending a lot of money versus on things that do work, such as what you do, what I do. And I'm bringing this up because I'm just making this point, is that other countries, I believe, are more progressive, like Canada, on issues around holistic health. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Push the studio, if you're still around, let me know, because you live in Canada. I just want to say that right now. And let me see who else is in the chat room and what they're saying. Cap PY2 says, yes, Canada has legalized recreational marijuana. Right on, Cap. They have. That's right. Way before we have here. And then we got Miss Bonafide, 1970. She says, this pharmaceutical products carrying so many horrendous side effects. That's right. Although they are quick fix, they are not without their drawbacks. Therapy might take longer, but has little to no side effects. That's true. Now, I agree with you, Miss Gaines, that medication for some people is needed. God knows I've seen that firsthand in my years working. Yes. But I also know that they have said that there's been studies out there to say that in some of the nursing homes in particular, that some patients are over medicated.
Yeah.
You hear people saying, hey, I don't have no energy. The medication's making me feel drowsy, drugged out. I don't have it's changing my personality.
And I've had a couple of sessions too, where a patient has had so much medication that there is no therapeutic benefit from me coming in because they're not responsive. So I definitely can attest to that as well. And it's sad, I think, but I also, there's a lot going against me for a person who's just now entering the field due to lack of experience, or my opinion as far as a lack of experience.
Okay. Ms. Gaines, can you explain to everybody what are maybe you did, and I'm sorry, but explain what is required to become a music therapist? How does one who's listening to this video today, if they want to become a music therapist because they have a musical background, whatever it may be, how does one start off? Break down how a person should start, what things you should take, courses. Go right ahead.
Gotcha. So, currently for music therapy, as far as AMTA, the American Music Therapy Association, is concerned, you should attend an accredited university, which all of them are 4-year institutions. I believe all of the music therapy programs, or a large portion of them, exist within the School of Music. So with that, your requirement to even get into a school of music would be to have an instrument, a primary instrument that you will audition with and then continue to practice throughout the completion of your degree. The second big thing is that you're required to complete an accredited internship as well. So it's not enough to just say, oh, I'm working with this music therapist in XYZ facility or XYZ private practice. It needs to be approved by the American Music Therapy Association. And then you have to have at least 1,200 hours of practice. Some of this is done in your courses before you reach internship, through observation, through session planning, and then actual facilitation and co-leading. But then it can also happen, a large portion of it actually happens in internship too, to make sure you don't fall through the cracks. And then you need to, it's strongly suggested that you need to take the CBMT board exam, which is, I would say it's very important actually, because it solidifies your credentials. It says that you are qualified to practice as a music therapist and you are aware of how music can impact a person, if you're careful or not careful. But currently there are some facilities, or not every state in the US recognizes the licensure. So there are some people who do call themselves music therapists, but do not have these requisites. And that currently is a thing that AMTA is working through right now. As far as actual classes, I believe all music therapists in the degree are expected to have a proficient or an increasingly proficient knowledge of guitar and piano. At my university, we were expected to be able to play in a certain amount of major keys and a certain amount of minor keys and be able to transpose songs into those keys if we needed to. So for example, G, D, A, E, C major, A, E, D minor, on both instruments, the guitar and the piano. So having, if you're able to take some courses on those two or take lessons in piano or guitar, really, really helpful. Some other courses that you can be expected to see are maybe some psychology classes, basic psychology, abnormal psychology. You're also likely going to take some biology classes, anatomy and physiology. You definitely will take your standard music major courses, music history, music theory, music, if you have it, music composition. That's really helpful. And also, I know some students, if they know what area they want to work in or they're wanting to expand their marketability as a music therapist, some actually take music business courses or courses to kind of learn how to be an effective business person and advocate for their services in a new hospital or in a new facility. And also small but important things like sign language, learning another language to be bilingual or trilingual, and then also cultural and ethics courses to be more culturally relevant to the population that we're serving now.
Wow. Now, let me read some more in the chat room. Cap has been all over this today. He says, absolutely, it's best to grow your own food so there won't be any second guessing. Yeah, a lot of folks in the chat room are talking about holistic treatments, the medical marijuana situation, growing your own food, things of that nature, because we know pesticides and all the things that they're putting in our food is definitely hurting us.
Mm-hmm.
How, I know you wanted to present a presentation at the workplace, and there was something, we're not going to get into details of what happened with that.
There's some favorite experience.
It's your favorite experience. There's some things that happened that weren't, let's just say, not what, we're not happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want you to do as best you can with the time that you have with me is to let people know what is the relevance of, because of the title of the show, what is the relevance of music therapy for African Americans, Black people, Moors, Aborigine. Black folks, we're the only people on this planet that go by so many different names, titles. No, I'm not African American. I'm a Moor. I'm Black. I'm Aborigine. I'm Native American. Look, we're everything, and I told you all this before. We come from the whole planet, dark matter. Study it. Melanin, study it. So in everywhere in the world, according to anthropology, they have dug up the remains of Black people and all over this planet. So that tells me that we're from the planet. But Black people are unique because we give ourselves so many names and so many different titles. But how is music therapy, from your brilliant mind, how is it relevant to our people?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just that
Tell the truth.
music is I would say almost an essential part of being a person who identifies as Black, or all of the other different terminologies to call yourself. Music, I can confidently say, has been formed as a result of Black music, whether it be spirituals, blues, gospel. All of these different types of Black music have created what we hear now, like rock, pop, even some small little branches like bubblegum pop and ska and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important, I think, for African American and Black individuals to be aware of music therapy, because it is it has strong ties to our background as people and how we interact with the world. I also think it's important because there is a strong attachment to our history. How should I word this? I think it's important because there are many people who can attest to it being very beneficial, but you don't see that visibility in the field of music therapy. Right now, we have over 7,000 practicing music therapists who are board certified in the United States. And according to our workforce research and analysis surveys that come out every year, all the way back even from 2011, over 80% of our practicing music therapists are white. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, that's not accurately reflecting the clients that we are serving, especially if we're hitting underserved and underrepresented communities across the United States. So I think that it would be very beneficial for us to increase our visibility, or at least increase talking about it among the Black community as a thing that we can utilize and should utilize to help promote a better holistic sense of who we are, and and then as well kind of show that we're out to help our community as well as other individuals too.
Well, you know what? You said some things that resonate with me right now. When I was a student, I went to San Francisco State University, and unfortunately, we don't have the accreditation for the program I went through. When I went to school, see, I kind of double majored, so I have some background in kinesiology, fine motor skills, to take those anatomy classes. See, this is the thing.
Yeah.
People think that when you do this type of therapy, oh, you're just taking easy classes. You got to take some science.
Gosh,
I had to heavily study psychology and
Yeah.
child psychology because my focus was working with kids. Now, I used to work personally. I don't think I told you this. I used to work with kids that were physically disabled, mentally ill, or what they call mentally ill, kids that were highly at risk for violence, and kids that had been abused, right? So that's where I had a lot of my attention. And I had to learn, I had to adapt activities and various things for kids who had issues with their self-esteem, their mental outlook, everything. So I had to take a lot of child psychology, psychology of the yin yang, anatomy, biology, a lot of science. I took some stuff in health education. So I kind of well-rounded myself.
Right.
And I've worked in nursing homes. I've worked boarding care facilities, the VA, of course, with guys in prison right now. I've worked in community rec programs with kids in Berkeley. I actually was involved in creating one of the first programs in Berkeley for children that were non-disabled with disabled children, to help bridge the gap between kids that are disabled and non-disabled, to have them be together, because a lot of times we separate kids who have disability, and the only way kids are going to learn to behave in a certain way is you got to normalize everything for them. And that's why you have to have them around different kids, have to be exposed to different kids with disabilities, excuse me. So when I was coming through the program, just like you, I was probably the only Black male in my graduating class. And if you know, in this field, it is dominated by females. So not only was I one of only a few African-American males in the program that I went through, I completed and matriculated myself through. The majority of the ladies that were in the majority of the classmates were females.
Yep, it's the same in music therapy.
And even where I'm at now, I'm one of only a few guys in the program where we are right now. So
Right.
these type of psychology, health providing fields are fields that do tend to be female run in terms of females go into these type of fields.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the future is going to be great because there's going to be, I think, an explosion in what you do and what I do going forward because people are living longer in American society.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is the biggest, what's the trend right now? Who do you think is the biggest users of leisure and recreation and these type of therapies? In America,
age-wise, I would say young adults, but
no.
No?
The biggest users of recreation and leisure in this society are the senior citizens, older adults. Why?
Okay.
They've got more time on their hands.
Sense.
They're out of work. They're not working anymore. They're retired. They have more. Some of them have income to travel, to go around. That's why hospitality management is huge in San Francisco, New York, the tourism industry, because senior citizens are taking advantage of more recreation than even younger people because they've got the time. I'm talking about senior citizens, of course, that have the money, because of course we got senior citizens that are poor and ain't got the money. But for the most part, seniors, because America is aging, our aging population is actually bigger than our younger. They're aging. Why? People are living longer because healthcare is getting better for some people based on the money that you got, of course. You see what that guy in the White House is doing. I don't want to say his name. He's making a lot of changes.
In the White House. I'm not going to say his name.
I don't want to say his name, and Spike Lee can say it for me. But we have a lot of things going on. And check this out. Remember the Nintendo Wii game when that first came out?
I love that console.
That console, and we have it at the job. That console was marketed for kids, right? And young adults, right? Guess who was the biggest users of the Nintendo Wii? Who were the biggest users of that?
The adults.
The senior citizens, adults. And the reason why it was used big time by them is because it also allows you to exercise. So you're exercising while you're engaging with this gaming system. Now, I used this gaming system just last week with some of the guys, and I'm telling you, it is effective. It's working on their cognitive, their ability to pay attention, and it also got them moving and exercising at the same time. That's why the Nintendo Wii game was so successful, but particularly successful amongst seniors. Most definitely. Let's look at some comments in the chat room. See what folks are saying right now. Cap says, I agree, Sister Gaines, but some family members are too close-minded or willfully ignorant to understand the mental issues within our community. Speak upon what Brother Cap just said.
Yes. Okay. So let it be known, I have a...
Oh, thank you. Wait a minute. I'm sorry about this. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat.
I appreciate that. The great. Thank you for that super chat that you just sent me. Go right ahead, Miss Gaines. I'm sorry. I just have to acknowledge people in the chat room when they do things like that. Go right ahead, Miss Gaines.
So I completely agree that there are some instances where you do have family members who might dismiss mental illness as you just need to make yourself happy, or if you fall back on the church, which there is nothing wrong with falling back on spirituality. But if you use that as a sole resource, then you wouldn't be having these mental health issues. These are some of the examples that I've actually heard in sessions or with some of my own family members. However, I think that it's really hard to get to kind of show your side and have it be received that mental health is really serious and you can't easily dismiss it. And I think a part of that also could be the affordability of trying to improve yourself if you do have a mental health illness, because it's very expensive, not gonna lie, to afford a music therapist or any type of therapist. in addition to medicine, and then also try and support everything else that you're trying to do in life. But yeah, I just wanted to say I strongly agree with that comment.
And Cap says that the Wii game is the bomb. You're right, brother. It is the bomb.
I like Wii Sports.
Have you had any experiences in your own family as it relates to music? I mean, you come from a musical family.
Mm-hmm.
Can you touch on that? And how has music therapy impacted, and you've seen the impact or the effectiveness of music therapy even on your own family? Do you have some family members who have, I don't want to get too much into your business, but do you have family members who have had some problem that they've struggled with and maybe music has helped them? Go ahead.
Oh, surprise, surprise. Actually, I think a lot of the experiences I've noticed came from myself. And I say that because when I first pursued music therapy, almost completely across the board, everyone was like, why? Why didn't you just try and become a nurse? Why can't you work in IT? Funny enough, someone said, you should be a police officer or work in corrections. And I said, no, that's not my thing. And then my internship ended up being in a facility. But I saw it a lot in myself, because as I said, it opened a lot of doors for me. I struggled a lot with myself, how I viewed myself and how I was able to express my identity. Because as I mentioned before, I was the only Black person in my college graduating class. So there wasn't really many people to go, hey, like, I'm having a hard time kind of relating to all of this music that a lot of people are identifying with, but this is not something I grew up with. Or because of, I don't really know why specifically, but when I was younger, I almost exclusively grew up listening just to gospel music because my family was really, really spiritual. So I remember one time a teacher, I think, asked us, have you ever heard The Sound of Silence? And I'm like, no, that's not really a song that I'm familiar with. And I would always get criticized, like, what? You're a music therapy student. You should know this. And I'm like, well, sorry, I grew up listening to other things like that. So I felt kind of estranged. And in addition to that, I am a first generation college student from my family. My mom and dad, neither of them completed their college degrees. They both stopped at associates. And a lot of the effort, if I wanted to complete my college degree, fell on myself because they couldn't support me and my siblings at the same time. I come from a large family. So a lot of the struggle sat with trying to figure out, who do I want to be? How do I really fit in with this group that has this expected like baseline for a person who's wanting to become a music therapist? And then at the same time, like, how do I positively assert myself as a Black individual without getting the awkward silence or, oh, tell me more, you're this overall historian about Black history, which is very awkward. So for me, one of the biggest things that really drew me more and more into music therapy, despite getting all of this backlash and all of this confusion, was using music therapy, using some of the interventions that I've used in the internship and in some of my other clinical experiences. A lot of, I would say, my rehabilitation process, maybe it's ongoing, is the way that I work best with coming to conclusions and kind of identifying for myself what is best is thinking very, very intricately about what is the clearest way to communicate how I'm feeling. And music is a very good way to articulate that. So if you don't have the words to say, maybe you have chords or you have melodies that kind of shape the contour of how your emotions are flowing at that moment in time. And I would spend a lot of time writing lots of different songs for myself as a form of encouragement or just to vent how I'm feeling. Some other things I did for myself, which you maybe could call therapeutic listening, is I got very selective with my playlists. So I found a lot of artists specifically that were Black and female and had positive identity found or weaved within their lyrics. And I put them all into one big Spotify playlist, and I would listen to that every once in a while whenever I felt burnt out from learning the required music, and also just in my free time. And as that went along, I think I know for a fact that that really kind of continued my motivation to pursue music therapy. And I think that because I was so consistent in wanting to pursue music therapy, maybe my family started to kind of go, okay, she's really serious about this. So there has to be some efficacy to it. Now, they haven't seen any of my music therapy sessions. That would be a HIPAA violation. But there have been some news articles and some TED Talks that I've shared with my family to kind of give them some insight on what I'm doing. And I've done a few music therapy sessions with some of my siblings just to kind of figure out where I need to tailor and make it better for like a future session down the road. So that's kind of that's my response to that question.
Okay. Wow, Ms. Gaines, you've been fantastic today. Let me say this to you. When you were in your experience doing the internship, did you see the impact of music dealing with men that are incarcerated?
Yes.
Give us some insight into that.
Okay. So one of the big things, or where I noticed it the most, and maybe that's just because I was like really passionate about it, it was like my baby project. We're through our lyric analysis discussions and my therapeutic voice group. And so the lyric analysis group was, we just take like 2 songs each for an hour long for each week, or however frequently the schedule was set for that group. And we talk about how all of the different elements of music come together to create this artist's opinion, and then talk about whether you agree or disagree, or what advice would you give to this person. And a lot of the music, I purposefully picked some that talked about some of the struggles that the guys were going through at the facility. So drug use, histories of trauma and violence that have been inflicted on them, and that they've inflicted on others, if that fit. And then also, one of my favorite sessions was a time where we picked songs that sound one way, but actually have an entirely different meaning. Like, Hey Ya, Hey Ya. That song sounds really upbeat and gets you dancing and moving, but you're talking about a failed relationship. And so they're like, oh, that's something I haven't thought about before. And I'm like, yes, let's talk about this some more. But another one was the therapeutic voice group, which is, when you simmer it down, it's a men's choir. And that, I think, is where I saw the biggest change, because there seems to be this this preconception of men singing as not manly, or not, like, it's just not something that men do. It's not part of the masculinity trope. But for the guys, it was really helpful with reducing some of their symptoms, whether it be auditory hallucinations or improving self-esteem even. And with the songs that we chose, sometimes we would work on songs that had very affirming lyrics.
Right.
Like, I didn't use this one, but for example, like R. Kelly's World's Greatest, that would be a really good example to use in therapeutic voice. But we had done, we picked songs that had lyrics that kind of affirmed a feeling that they were experiencing. And maybe if they didn't have the exact words for their own personal experience and how it made them feel, they could still relate to the artist. Like Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine. Like losing a relationship or losing a partner, that can be very taxing. And you might not have the words to say, but you can sing that song and really feel it and kind of pull it out that way, so you don't have to keep it bottled up. So those are the ways that I saw music really flourish for the guys. And we also had this nice little conversation about how not everything that you listen to is therapeutic. And that can be debated. there is some thought in music therapy that you should follow the ISO principle, which is meeting a client where they are at, good or bad, and then bringing them up or down to where they need to be. So in some ways, you could say that because of the ISO principle, yeah, you can start off with the most intense song glorifying violence and drugs and just attaining money and things like that. But at the same time, that can't be too consistent. At some point, you got to move out of that. So we talked a lot about lyric choices, like from Lil Wayne or from other trap or mumble rappers, and how these lyrics can impact the way that you think and the way that you interact with other people in the prison setting, outside of that, with people that you want to build relationships with, and so on and so forth.
Okay, let me hold those thoughts right there. We're gonna go to a small intermission, but I want to say peace to Cap PY2. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for
the super
coming.
chat.
I appreciate you giving the super chat, brother. He's saying that he really appreciates the stream right now. Let me see right here where Cap dropped that in there. Let me see right there. See right there. Cap, he says $10 from Cap. PY2, great live stream. Much appreciated. Cap, I appreciate you being here. See, this is a subject matter. See, if I was up here talking about a polarizing topic, I mean, the chat room would be, I would have a lot more people in here because people like to listen to stuff that's polarizing. But what you're getting here today is a very good stream based on education, based on things that can help us. And one of the favorite things that people like, music. Music is a universal language. No matter where you are in the world, people can connect to music, the vibrations of the music. We're going to be right back in a moment because I want to ask you the time that we have, because over the years growing up, they always said that certain type of music creates people to be violent. Rap music, they associate violence with rap music and other types of things. They talk about rock and roll, right? And I'm gonna be polarizing right now. It's funny how when I was a kid growing up, you saw all the white kids listening to rock and roll. See, I grew up during the era when you had the punk rock and the kids coming to school with the spike hair and the pink and the purple hair color, and they were doing the head banging and all of that. And when the rock and roll was happening, and you have, for example, let's say you have white kids that get into trouble, you never saw them label it as heavy as they do with black kids. Oh, it's the music. And
yeah,
when it comes to rap music, they say, well, it's the rap music. And I know that music can have an effect on people, but I noticed that there is some bias when it comes to rap music as it relates to violence, and rock music when it relates to violence. And there's a bias
definitely
there. So we'll be back in just a moment. I want to thank everybody for being here and remind you this is the Information Man Show.
Information is power. You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Tell the truth.
The Information Man podcast can be heard on 9 major platforms, on the second YouTube channel as well, Information Man Speaks Podcast. Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Castbox, SoundCloud, and finally, Spreaker.
Now, let's get back to the Information Man show.
All right, everybody, we're back. We have a fantastic guest. This is Miss Gaines.
Hello.
She is a music therapist. That's right, a music therapist. This is a young lady that I've had a chance to engage with at the employment where I work at. She was an intern. We didn't work together like closely, but I had a chance to talk to her through passing. She actually helped me one day when I was substituting, being a substitute teacher and putting on a music therapy type of session with some of the guys, and I was covering a group for one of my colleagues, and she came over and helped me out. We got to talking, jazzing it up, talking about the violin because she plays the violin. I've played since I was 10 years old, took private lessons, participated in music camp. My mother plays, family is very musical, and I was one of those guys who played and thought I would be going to it professionally. Got a little burned out, got interested in other things as I got older. Still have my instrument here at home, but I've been procrastinating, got to get a few things fixed on the instrument. But as you can see, the little violin on the back screen here, that is the instrument to me. Miss Gaines, you let me know if I'm right or wrong. I believe, and some have said that the violin is the most difficult instrument to master because you're playing the strings. You have to actually execute proper bowing technique. You have to also hear for your notes. You have to actually hear for those notes. You don't have any buttons that you push down and there go the note. You got to have a understanding of what is a C flat, what is a sharp, all those sort of things. Then on the violin, when you're playing that violin and you're hitting those strings, you got to know how to shift into different positions, first position, second, third, all those different things, while at the same time reading the music or memorizing the music. You've got to work, as they say. So
work.
What is your thoughts?
Yeah, there's definitely, when I was learning the violin, and honestly, I think violin and many instruments really are one of those things where there is no such thing as mastery. You're always learning something.
That's true.
And with the violin, there's definitely some times where I was like, okay, listen here, like this is not how it should be. But I would agree, it's very, very, very difficult. On top of what you said, you've got this weird body contortion. Like, what is natural about moving your arm like this? I don't know.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
As normal about that. Let me ask you a question with the time that we have left.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important. Maybe I'm gonna be honest with you.
Go for it.
I'm not, this is probably going against the program now, but I got to say this. I love music. I grew up on music. My mother played. I'm glad that I was born at the time that I was born because I grew up on real eclectic music. People in the chat room can relate to what I'm saying here. Organic music, horns, real instruments. I grew up at a time when you had real bands. You didn't have all this synthesizer. I remember when the synthesizers were first coming into play, and you had people like Stevie Wonder, Herbie Hancock. They started dabbling in it, right? But before that, you really had to have a real band in the studio to produce the music. So I grew up on jazz, hip hop, soul music, funk, Boosie Collins, Sly Stone Family. A little bit of rock, Beatles. I heard it all in the household because my mother played it all. So I grew up with a different perspective about music because I grew up at the time before music became so electronic as it is now. I grew up on the albums. I'm sorry. I know that CDs sound very good because they can last a long time. The music's supposed to sound better. I'm sorry. There's nothing like the sound of an actual album that has an organic sound and you can hear that album pop in that music. My mother has a viola at home, an old school. It's worth money too.
Hey,
an old school, and the way they used to play the music. And then my mother used to, I grew up at the time when you would go to the record store, when you had real record stores, not this old, what is this? The stuff that you got now where you buy your music at Target and you buy it in. when I grew up, you had real mom and pop record stores where you would go in and get the needle. Come on, everybody in the chat room, you remember that? Get the needle. And then during the time I grew up, that's before it was illegal to have drug paraphernalia. So I remember going into the record stores, and they would sell the zigzag papers and the little pipes that you smoke out of, and they would have the psychedelic posters on the wall.
Whoa.
The woman's silhouette of her body. I'm serious. I saw this as a kid growing up, because I was
Holy
a little kid in the 70s. So I saw some of the stuff as a little kid in the 70s, and in the early 80s, I saw a lot of stuff. So it was a different time when the music was organic, spontaneity was powerful, and music has changed in a lot of ways, maybe for the worse or for the better. I personally think that rap music was a lot better in my time.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean towards that.
When I grew up in the 80s, I'm talking about the 80s. I'm talking about the 90s was great, but I go back to African Bambaataa.
Okay.
We're talking about the 70s, late 70s rap music. It's like a jungle out here, sometimes how you get from going under, that type of stuff, those were powerful songs that came out of that time, that era. And then I used to break dance and all that kind of stuff. Grandmaster Flash and all that kind of stuff like that I grew up on. So let me ask you something as a music therapist to be in the workings here. Why do you think that music traditionally has been so important to Black people, African-American people, original people, whatever you want to call it? Why is it that it's something that we have taken to? Because I personally think that was an avenue that they allowed Black people to explore, entertainment. And this is where I was going with what I was about to say. That could be blasphemy. I'm not as impressed by young people who sing and dance and entertain as I was when I was much younger. And this is the reason why. Because entertainment and dancing and music, not to put any shade on music therapy, but in terms of people who sing as performers, right? Entertainers, I mean. That was the avenue historically that they always allowed Black people to excel in. So to me, when I see a kid dancing, maybe singing, maybe I can say this. To me personally, it comes a dime a dozen for this reason, because that's the avenue that they've always allowed us to excel in. I'm actually more impressed by the young kids that are doing the STEM and the science. And the reason why I say it is because we know that we know for the most part that Black people can sing and we can dance because we've excelled in that. Not that it's not important. Now, it is important to our spirit, to our soul.
Right.
But I'm saying to you that with our talent in music comes the stereotypes.
Yeah.
That, okay, Black folks are good at singing and dancing and playing them bung and playing this and playing that, right?
Yep.
So now there's a double consciousness here. You're a music therapist on the one hand, trying to use music to affect change. Then as it relates to Black people, there's always this stereotype that we are associated with music. But when you look at our history, what is your thought about our history? Why is it historically that Black people coming out of slavery, plantations and all of that, we know that the first fiddlers were Black. Why is it that music was so powerful for us?
I think that music was so powerful for us. Kind of attaching it to what was mentioned, like really early on in the podcast. It's involved in a lot of different aspects of our culture. It's involved in, for example, it's involved in moments of celebration, moments of grief. It's involved in spiritual connection with a higher power. It's involved in romantic expression or platonic expression with other people. It's involved in communication of all other sorts. And then on top of that, it's kind of biologically hardwired into our being. Your heart has a rhythm. Your circulation also follows a rhythm. And I think in an innate sense, that's why it's important. But then also there's this idea, and I'm glad that you mentioned it because now I'm really excited to talk about it. But like the idea of being allowed to go into entertainment as far as it pertains to music, there's this idea called the critical race theory, and I forget who coined the term, but the general idea is that a population of a majority allows a minority to do something with both good and bad intentions. So part of it could be the allowance of exploring one's culture and kind of getting a better sense of who you are through that culture. And that you can see that happen through music because historically, I would say historically, generally, if we're talking about Africa, a lot of who we are, history, our poetry, our stories of great beings and warriors were told through music and art and dancing. So in and of a way, that's helping to strengthen our culture and our identity. But then connecting it back to critical race theory, that's it's important, but also it has been turned into a profit for other people. So they know that people are really good, maybe really good at doing all of these things, and they see an opportunity to gain something from it, which we have seen through history, through colonialization and other things like that. But I will tone that back down for a little moment.
That's okay. No, we have to. Now, I want to repeat myself because I don't want people to get me wrong that will watch this video in the repeats of this video. I'm not saying that music is not important to the soul, the body, the spirit, and the heart of Black people or people in general. I'm simply saying that see, you're talking to a guy. I mean, I'm not super old, but I got a little age on me, so I got a little bit of old fogey coming out in me. All right, I never thought I'm getting a little bit grouchy here. What I'm saying to you is that you know how when you look at social media and you got okay, I'll just keep it real. I watched something on social media where you had this little kid on top of a dining table or whatever. He had diapers on and he was doing the stinky dance, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever they call that. I was sort of disgusted by it because to me, I was like, there we go again, stereotyping. There we go again. Everybody gets excited over the kid that's dancing around with his diaper on. That's exciting. Everybody loves it. It's exciting. But to me, like I said, we have to diversify who we are. And a lot of times in this society, who Black people are is always being mimicked as just entertainment.
Right. And I think I think that is kind of where it shifted. Like at first, for example, with older rap, I think a large portion of it has been, yeah, I'm actually trying to share my struggles with you to let you know that it's not easy being a Black person in this environment. But it seems like nowadays that even rap nowadays, lots of different genres are geared towards what will get people to listen to it the most, whether it include dances that are very, take your pick on the adjective, maybe very like eye-catching, maybe even provocative or vulgar, or just kind of insults the identity of a Black person. If it's something that sells, I think entertainment is not looking at whether this is right or wrong or insults or does not insult. They're looking at, oh, well, this just got me 5 million views and this is going to increase my monetary value. So let's just continue and perpetuate this thing. And I think you can also see that through not just like the harmonic buildup of some songs. Sometimes it's really good to have simple, but the themes that you also hear in music nowadays too. To me, it sounds very shallow. There's not a lot of deep thought put into it. But, you know, sometimes there are moments where you don't have very deep thought to it. And that could be just a personal preference too of the artist. But it seems like you're making music based on what's going to sell rather than your actual expression. And maybe for some people, because they've grown up more in this side of the era, that is all they know, or that's what they feel most comfortable doing with music. And so that continues to snowball and turn into this is what we're seeing, instead of actual, more respectful portrayal of Black individuals. You just see what most people are wanting to or willing to pay and promote, if that makes sense.
Let me just say this. We got my man Underrated Darkness in with us. He says, good afternoon, information man in chat. Peace, brother. Glad to have you here. We got my man Kujant, 87, who just came in. Glad you're here. The topic is about music therapy and how music therapy is effective. Let me go over something right now with you real quick about research. Research in music therapy. This is Miss Gaines, by the way, for those of you who just came into the chat. She is a student, worked at my facility where I work at in terms of as an intern, and she's hoping to continue exceeding towards her career as a music therapist. We've been talking about the effectiveness of music therapy has an effect for Black people and how it is used universally to deal with creating to boost your mood, your energy, to get you going. Says here, research in music therapy support that music therapy supports the effectiveness in many areas such as the overall physical rehabilitation, facilitating movement, increasing people's motivation to become engaged in their treatment, providing emotional support for clients and their families, and providing an outlet for expressing feelings. And I'm going to say it again. Sometimes you may not be able to express things verbally, but music can allow you to express what's on your mind when you can't express things verbally. It's been proven in studies. And let me go into another area too, Miss Gaines. I want you to hear what I'm saying here. Music is a human phenomenon. It is the only sensory experience that can activate all areas of the brain at the same time. And I said that music is something that enters your self-conscious mind without your experience, without your permission. Now,
Right.
not to get too biblical on you, they say that one of the gifts that the devil had or Satan had is that he had the power of music, and that's how he was able to put people on the hip, control people. Now, if you're familiar with Greek mythology or Roman or Greek mythology, if I'm not mistaken, what's that mythology where you had the character with the flute, the Pied Piper flute, and he had the little bit, he had the goat legs.
Is he
I
Pan?
think it's Pan, but it's a mythological creature, or it's half man and half goat or whatever. You've seen it in some of these Greek movies or mythological tales, and his power is that he would play a flute and he would put people under hypnotic trances, and he could woo women, right? He could get women to, he was a ladies' man type of cat, and he had these billy goat legs, and some of that Greek mythology that some of this mythology that we've grown up reading, half man, centurna, whatever you call it, half man, half horse, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We've seen this
Centaurs,
that's right. Thank you. And we've seen this in movies and all this kind of stuff. Jason and the Argonauts. But that comes out of this whole thing around the devil having this power of music, because it can enter your subconscious mind without your permission. Now, music creates a powerful new potential to our clients for the development of new neural pathways.
Yeah.
When we discuss brain plasticity theories, it takes extensive and hard work to stimulate and build these pathways, but you get exciting results. Picture below is now what I want to talk. I'm gonna bring up to you real quick. Is there's this thing, I have a thing with the brain, and music is hitting the brain stem, the temporal lobe, the frontal lobe, the pretellar lobe, cerebellum area. And let me tell you something why I think Black people have this connection to music. And maybe you should add this as a part of your study independently. Study and understand melanin and how melanin works. It's in our eyes, it's in our ears, it's in your body, your everything, your color of your hair, everything. Melanin. I had a professor when I was in college who was a doctor of this. What happens is when you are a dark or a Black person, a highly melanated person, it's in your ears. So when we hear music, that's why Black people, we tend to like music that have a lot of heavy bass in it. It's because the melanin, the darker you are, the more melanin you have. And melanin operates like a plant. It takes in negative and positive energy, photosynthesis, right? And so when you're listening to music and the bass is what's getting you going, the melanin that's in your ear is attracted to that sound, and it gets you into a low movement. Now, in the professor, when he talked about this, I know it sounds like stereotypes. He talks about it in terms of when people dance. Why is it that black people, when we move at a lower level in our movement? He's saying that it's science-based, based on the melanin. The melanin gets us really moving. Everything that we do is music. Everything that we do is musical, from running, talking, walking. Black people, we have a rhythm to us. Now, when you hear that, oh, black folks got rhythm, they can dance and sing, right? That sounds like a stereotype. Well, the reason why we move with rhythm every day, every part of our life is rhythm, is because of the melanin in our ears and how it reacts to sound. And it goes to the sound that's on the bass low. That's why James Brown was able to be so powerful with his music, with being on the one. When he was a youngster, that's what he was hearing. That was the melanin in James Brown. As dark of a black man, beautiful black man he was, that dark matter was what was driving his music with the on the one beat.
Wow. Okay.
So if you study melanin and what it does in the ear, you will understand why certain sounds and beats have an impact. They say, tell me if I'm right or wrong, that when a child is in the womb of a woman, that music is very important, because that child can hear what's happening in the womb. And so if they say that introducing music to a woman's womb or belly could be a powerful thing. So I want you to touch on that as we get close to concluding the podcast today, the live stream today. But I also want to get us back to a question that I think we didn't answer, which is the question rock and roll and the rap music, and how different groups are treated based on the music that they listen to. So did anything that I just said to you make any kind of sense to you? I know the whole melanin thing I said is kind of spooky.
I'll have to check into that, because there might be something to that, because the research, just from what I've seen, at least the research just shows that you respond a lot due to your motor cortex. And so even things like rhythmic entrainment, just kind of whenever you feel a big beat, your brain is responding to that super heavily, and you just naturally get this instinct to move around. But you mentioned that Black people are more inclined to feel the music a bit more, and even like move in a different way. So knowing what makes that difference between Black individuals and other races, that I think would be really interesting to look into.
Let me just say this, because I'm gonna break it down some more. Everybody has melanin, white Europeans, Asians, whatever. It's just how much you have of it. The more you have, the more sensitive you are to things around you. So, for example, when you look at Black children, right, and you say, "Wow, they're moving around and stuff like that, they're dancing to the music," it's because the melanin. It's almost like the movie Black Panther, the vibranium, right? The vibranium takes in energies, right? Well, melanin is the vibranium.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You're absorbing things around you. So if the music has a heavy beat, boom, 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 it does something to you different from someone who is not as highly melanated as you are, which is one of the reasons why Black men in particular, Black people, have problems with hypertension. Why? Because we are more sensitive to stress and various things that are impacting us negatively in society. So that's why so melanin is a gift, but it also hurts us in areas that are negative. Remember I said negative and positive energies? So as much as it helps us it also hurts us when we are negatively impacted by drugs, alcohol, and stressful things in society, racism and social ills of society. So it works with us both ways. Hits us both ways.
Definitely.
But with that said, let me say what's up to Sister Raw. She said something about that she raised both of her babies off of music, gospel music, in the womb. She says,
Oh.
she said, I spoke in tongues when I was pregnant with both my babies, and I listened to a lot of gospel music. So that's what Sister Raw is saying there. She says, true Black women experience more stress in America more than African women in Africa because of the racism we face. Maternity rates is high for SIDS. Now,
Yeah.
I do think that Black women in America do deal with a high level of racism. I do believe that there are some polarizing issues in the continent of Africa
hmm
that Black women in Africa have to deal with. I think we're all catching a little bit of, you know what, we're all getting hit from different areas based on where we are in the diaspora of the world. So I would
hmm
agree with that. Now, the next question that we did not get it delve into is the issue. She talks about oh, that's a sad one right there. But another an issue is the issue of music. Uh, like I said before, I feel like there's a bias between rock and roll and kids that listen to rock and roll as it relates to violence versus kids who listen to rap music. And
hmm
then they say, oh, rap music makes you violent. Do you think there's a bias there? What are your thoughts about that?
I definitely think there's a bias there. I wrote a paper about it in college. So some of the things that I definitely agree, and I think that part of the reason is that we view rap so negative, or that some people view rap as like this only violent or only drug glorifying thing today, is because it's been happening in history. Some people viewed African American music, like rap, as like uncultured, not really refined, and I think that can kind of come from our European or Eurocentric idea of what music should be. But then again, going back to the critical race theory, I think that some people did see some value for their own profit as a result of the music that we were creating. And so rock became born. And because it was more approved than rap or other things that kind of share the essence of what Black people are, it maybe became more widely accepted because it was less uncomfortable. And I say uncomfortable because maybe there are some people who feel like they couldn't relate to the music that was being produced, such as rap. And because of that, they opted for another thing that they could relate to, whether it be on a racial level or topic-wise, the content that was being produced. Now, as far as the content is concerned, I think that both rap and rock carry similar things. You said earlier that a lot of rock artists, they did use a lot of drugs, and they talk about it in their music. The Beatles, for example, there are lots of really trippy songs. But for some reason, when we get to talking about rap, it's like some taboo thing. And even in music therapy research, there was one article that I really wanted to try and fit into my presentation during internship about some music therapists' perceptions on rap. And one quote from there really stood out to me. The question in the survey response was why this music therapist does or does not include rap in their session. And one person had said, rap, quote unquote, rap, I won't call it music, is an aberration that replaces the artistry of true songcraft with technology-driven horse poop. I will not under any circumstances ever use it in therapy. So I think that kind of highlights that this weird notion that rap is unrefined. It's not the idealistic image of what music should be. But I think that it's still important to keep because, as I said before, it can be used to convey history of people. It can show and highlight the struggles that someone's experiencing that no one else may have any awareness of if it were not put into a song format. And I think, quite frankly, if rock is allowed to exist, then rap should exist too, on a more like balanced and I want things to be equal perspective. But
Do
yeah.
you, let me ask you a question. Do you see, this is one of the problems historically that has happened with music, especially when it comes to Black people, is that we create a genre of music, and then eventually that music starts to get taken over.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us growing up, like myself, we heard that when it came to jazz and rock, right? But we heard it from our grandfathers or our fathers or older generation, right? But we didn't pay
Right.
much attention to it. And then when we start doing the rap music, right? And for the most part, when we start doing Black rap music coming out of New York and places like that, a lot of Black folks were saying, this is our music. We ain't gonna let this music get taken over the way rock got taken over and
Mhm.
jazz. And guess what's happening? See, if you don't, James Baldwin used to say, if you don't know what happened in your past, you won't know what's happening all around you today.
Right.
Because we didn't pay, I think, close attention to what happened to our fathers and mothers and grandparents' music, and we got arrogant in our youth and thought that our music was not going to be taken over. Well, I've been listening to rap music for quite some time, and I have personally seen the the um the evolution of rap music and where it is
Mhm.
today. I remember when and you may not realize this because you're much younger than me. You may not realize this. MTV was one of the most racist programs on television in these United States of America. They
Mhm.
never played Black artists at all. They only played rock 24/7. They never played rap music or anything at one
Mhm.
point in time. And when there was some pushback on them about this, they stepped fast and said, it's no. So MTV, and nope, a lot of people don't know this because they look at these MTV Music Awards and they think MTV is this big old diversified thing. Well, it wasn't like that at one time. Matter of fact, it was pushback that made MTV change. And MTV did not really gain the success that it has today until you had Yo MTV Rap. When that program was on there with Ed Lover and all of them, they really took off. That's when rap music really started to take off in the 90s because of that
Gotcha.
particular show, because before then, rap music was simply underground and part in New York. People
Mhm.
knew about it on the underground level. Most people in this country, let alone white kids, did not like rap music. They thought it was going to be a one and done type of deal. Okay.
Right.
Then what happened was Michael Jackson knocked down the MTV doors. Michael Jackson was the first one to perform on MTV,
Mhm.
okay, as a solo artist. He was the only Black you know what on there for some time. Then for everybody in the chat room, who this is a trivia for you, music trivia. Who was the first Black group to be on MTV after Michael Jackson as a solo artist? Who was the first Black group? This group has its origins from a record label in LA called at one time Soul Yarn Records. Soul Yarn, that came out of Soul Train. Don Cornelius had a
Ah.
business partner who wanted to go into a rap label business. Don Cornelius didn't want to do that, which is why he
Mhm.
stuck with Soul Train. And Soul Yard, that's right, Soul Yard Records is the record label that was in Los Angeles that signed this group. Can anybody in the chat room tell me who that group was? Let's see for music trivia right now. Prince and the Revolution. No, it was not Prince, but Prince did come. Good guess. Michael Jackson was the first artist on MTV to break the racial barrier. Who was the first group? It wasn't Prince, but Prince was soon coming after. Prince and Revolution. No. Wrong, Kujin. Let's see. First, the group you have, Love Me Some Soul Train. Soul Train is great. MTV was all about music from the Brits island. And first, Michael Jackson brought back Black music into MTV. Yes, he did. Okay, everybody. Remember an artist named Jody Watley, who used to be a Soul Train dancer? And she sung with a group called, here it comes, everybody. Here comes the bell. Come to class. Shalimar. Remember that group,
Oh.
Shalimar? Shalimar is the actual first actual black group on MTV, and they were with the record label Soul Yard Records. Soul Yard.
I learned something new today.
Soul Yard record. You can look it up. I'm having a tongue twist right now, folks. But it was the Shalimar group with Jody Watley, who used to be a Soul Train dancer. That's how she got her start. And she auditioned for this group, and they were the first group. Make sure y'all look at Unsung on I'm giving a plug for TV1. They have this Unsung series where they talk about groups. I should be getting a check from TV1 for giving them this. But anyway, so it was Shalimar, and then you had Prince, who came soon after. But up until that time, MTV was one of the most racist programs on television. And a lot of you millennials out there in Z generation, or whatever you call yourself, a lot of y'all shaking y'all booty to MTV and don't even know the history. You should always know your history and learn your history when it comes to our music.
Mhm.
What do you think about what I just said, Miss Gaines?
I agree. I think the history is important, for many reasons. To, again, maintain that sense of not letting people appropriate the music and kind of turn it into what they want to turn it into. I think it's important to preserve the qualities of music and why we chose to express music in the way that we did. And I actually think that's something that we as music therapists could maybe point out more in our courses. Because we prioritize research-based evidence on the effectiveness of music on the body. But I think that, especially if you're approaching someone who is of a minority or of a different race from you, it helps to know the background of the music that they listen to or that they're interested in. One big example that actually happened once during my time in school was we had this intergenerational choir, and one of the songs that they were learning at the time was Hound Dog. And the student had mistakenly attributed it to Elvis, but it's not originally by him.
Whoa, wait a minute. Say that again. You're educating me too. Say
What?
that again. Yeah,
Oh,
Hound Dog. Break that down.
Hound Dog was first performed by Big Mama Thornton, and it was, at the time, I think it was one of those songs where it would be more publicly received to be played by a white artist instead of a black artist. And at the time, Elvis Presley was the one to take over that song. So now many people, when they say they want to hear You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog, they think of Elvis and not Big Mama Thornton. And that's, I think, one of the most glaring moments where you should really know your history about the songs that you perform for people. Because it's not enough to know how to play it. It's very important to know the context in which it was being made and how it was performed too.
Wow. Now, I did hear stories about Elvis Presley getting a lot of his style from watching blues singers.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up on the blues, and that's where he got a lot of his ideas for his music and his way he would dress and he would move.
Right.
A lot of it was, and remember when Elvis Presley hit the scene, a lot of these radio stations in this country at the time thought that he was a black man singing, and they would say, we can't sell this ninja music.
Yep.
Right. And then they realized very quickly that, oh, it was a white guy, and they realized, okay, let's figure out how we can sell this. Wow. Because a lot of that heavy guitar playing and movement, they associated that with black people in a negative way.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, in terms of music history, this is very important for us to understand that. Now, where I was going earlier is that I'm watching rap music because we didn't learn. I don't think we learned and took heed to what our family members told us. Rap music, for the most part, has been infiltrated, in my opinion. What I'm saying is it's becoming to a point where Other groups are coming in, they're making money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's being mass marketed. You're hearing it in jingles, commercials, movies now,
Yep.
and big business. And I can remember that the only reason why, in my estimate, that rap music is where it is today is because they figured out they can make money off of it. And once they figured out that they can make money off of it and that the artists would take any kind of pennies on the table that they would give them, they realized that they could infiltrate the music.
Yep.
So I believe that rap music today has been taken over. It's going to be compromised just in the same way that jazz is. And I'm going to tell you why. It already is. Let me tell you
Oh
why.
yeah,
I'm going to keep it 100% real. I went to a rap concert. It was an old school concert. It had Salt and Pepper was there. What's the what's that guy? Coolio was there.
yeah.
The guy that used to sing that booty song, Sir Mix-a-Lot, was there. Grandmaster Flash was there. I'm talking about old school, okay? Some of the top people that performed in the past. When I went to the concert, and it was the whole place was sold out, the whole arena. And I got to looking around at the people around me. And you know, when you eat raisin, I don't know if you ever ate Raisin Bran cereal. When you eat Raisin Bran cereal, when you get to the end of eating Raisin Bran cereal, you see little raisins in the puddle of milk that's left over.
You don't eat the raisins?
So listen to my metaphor here.
Okay.
So you start eating down, and then you got the little raisins in the milk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's how I am at a rap concert. I was like one of only a few black people
Okay.
at the concert because white people are the ones that are buying tickets for these concerts and these type of events. Black people, for the most part, are not dominating the crowd in these rap concerts anymore. So that's why my metaphor is that I'm like a little Raisin Bran in a puddle of milk. You probably didn't catch on to that little satire there that I just said, but that's the truth. Because rap music is being heavily followed by Caucasian white people are following rap music just in the same way that Caucasians follow jazz today. If I was to go to a jazz concert, I could count the number of black people that are there. So is it because economically we can't afford the tickets? We don't want to go? What is it? But I'm noticing those are trends that have been happening for quite some time. And I believe that eventually at some point in time, as you see things becoming more multicultural in this society and other people of different races are singing. Now, I'm not saying that other people of other races don't have the right to sing rap music. They certainly do. But I'm coming from a perspective of a guy who grew up at a time when we said we would never let our music be compromised by other people. And what I've seen is that it has been compromised. But that's just my opinion. That's all. That's what I'm trying to say there. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Let's see. Let me see there what people are saying. Hip hop is like salvation rather than rap. It is like a soul snatching nightmare. Wow. I mean, it depends on what kind of rap, and it depends on what you're into. I mean, look. I can say with pure confidence that something did happen to conscious rap.
Right.
Something did happen because during the time that rap music was out and it was conscious rap, a lot of us were going to college campuses. A lot of the rappers were performing and doing their videos on college campuses like the HBCs. And people were like, man, I want to go to college. That looks fun, right? And something happened where they decided to say, we got to make gangster rap more prominent over conscious rap.
Right.
And all of a sudden, gangster rap became prominent. And I believe that it became prominent to change the message and the narrative where black people were going. Because at that time, you were wearing the African medallions. People were saying Hotep. People were saying to the East, my brother, to the East, my brother. And you had groups like X-Clan, and you had my man Parrish from Oakland. And all of these groups sort of disappeared off the map because the radio stations would not play the music. They were pumping the gangster rap. And if you don't get airplay, your career is basically gone in the sea. What are your thoughts about that?
I I could definitely see that.
If you got a difference of opinion, you can say,
No,
you speak your mind. I don't want you to just repeat what I'm saying. Speak your mind.
it's not a difference of opinion at all. I was going to say that I completely agree, but I kind of forgot some of what you were saying.
I'm sorry.
No, no,
I'll,
you're good.
basically, what I'm saying is, in a nutshell, there was a time when we had positive rap, and something happened to change the narrative of where rap music was going, and now we have a lot of this ratchet type stuff that we're listening to today. That I'm not appreciated. I don't appreciate any of it.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some gatekeeping happening with the type of music that we're listening to now. Definitely only, if not completely one-sided, there's a lot of influence and bias towards one specific type, or maybe one or two specific types, instead of some genuine, authentic quality, even content in music.
Okay. Let me ask you this question too.
Hmm.
What is your goal with music therapy? Do you have a particular population you wanna concentrate on? I know that there may be some opportunities for you to get on full time at my neck of the woods, as your internship is over now, but we wanna get you back and get you there employed, and get you jump starting your career. But overall, where do you want to see yourself? You're a young lady. Where do you want to see yourself going? Are you thinking about getting a master's degree? Are you thinking about getting a doctorate degree and
Hmm.
teaching one day at the universal level? You kind of have that look like you could be a doctor of music therapy,
I
and I
hear.
could see you at the university level teaching and doing research. No, I'm being honest with you, because that's the only way these professions will be recognized and get the props that they deserve, is that we have to have more people doing research and empirical data based evidence of what we're doing and how it's affecting people. What are your thoughts?
I agree. Um, so beforehand, before internship, actually, my heart was set on hospice. And after being declined internship offers just for the sake of not having experience, which is weird, um, I got led to the internship that I did. And that, working in forensic music therapy and correctional music therapy with a focus on mental health, just like immediately became a really big passion for me. And I think a part of it is because of the cultural differences that I got to see and work with in individual and in group sessions. And I want to continue doing that as I progress throughout my career. So to answer the question, I think maybe in the next 5 years, I see myself continuing music therapy in a correctional or mental health setting.
Mhm.
But to be honest, I'm starting to feel inclined to work with adolescents. I think adults are still important too, but I think there's a growing need for adolescents to be able to, as my PowerPoint was focused on, develop a positive sense of identity. So
Mhm.
kind of shifting away from this biomedical model to a more social model of how to
Yeah.
use music therapy and how to make it more accessible for people who can't reach it.
Mhm.
So I would like to see myself maybe one day be a part of a program that does some outreach for music
Yes.
therapy advocacy, but also to provide music therapy to those who may not have mental health diagnoses, who just need some extra support on a more down to earth and less formal level.
Mhm.
Um, and then maybe in the future, because a lot of people have been telling me the same thing regarding teaching, um, maybe I could see myself become a teacher, but I'm wondering if maybe it would be beneficial to maybe not market, but like allocate my efforts of teaching towards an HBCU, since there are
Yes.
no current HBCUs that house a music therapy
Yes,
program.
let me tell you something right now. There's Sister Raw on here. She says yes, she's definitely has that look for the profession, like counseling or therapy. I'll go to her or send my son to her. And then
Oh,
there's a
thank
then
you.
there's a and she likes that. Um, there's a cool sister in the chat room that goes by the name Pro Woman, and
Mhm.
she says, and I want to shout her out. Pro Woman, peace to you, because I didn't have a chance to shout her out. She says, good rap She says good rap hip hop is still out there.
Yes.
It's independent though. Corporate label rap is garbage, like programming on Byron Island's channel. She's right about that. Let me say this to you. This is what I would say.
Hmm.
What you want, what I would say is, because I have these plans myself, I would say get into the profession, work in the field, and maybe down the line, I know for me, when I retire from work, I actually would like to teach.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not now, maybe it's something that you might want to do as you get older in your career, in your life, where you've done that, you've been there, done that, and now you're ready to do that. But I'm
Hmm.
just saying to you right now is that is what's lacking. We need more empirical evidence and data through studies and research.
Right.
And I think that you might have just made your niche by focusing on the HBCs, because I don't
Yeah.
think they have that. And you could be trend setting with that. When I look at you, I see a professor. I'm talking to a professor in the works. And one day you probably would have forgotten about me. I'd probably be an old man in a wheelchair.
I'll walk past you
One
into
day will come, and you might remember and say, damn, I remember this guy who went by the name Information Man that I
Mhm.
that worked at the place that I interned, and he told me this, and I wasn't paying much attention to it, but now I wonder where that guy is, because he was right. That's just my prediction for you. And
Mhm.
I think it could be something down the line as you get your feet more into the pool of
Yeah.
and everything like that. We're going to get ready to come to a conclusion. I want to thank
Mhm.
you for being here today. And
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to have you back to talk about this subject some more, and many other subjects that you might have on your mind.
Mhm.
Hey, what's going on? Gab Talk Media. Gab Talk. That's a good brother. I'm glad to see you in the chat room. Peace to you,
Aw.
brother. And yeah, me and him have been on YouTube around the same time. I'm a big supporter of him. He's been a big supporter of me. People get busy. It's a Saturday. A lot of things are going on a Saturday
Yeah,
for folks.
definitely.
But I'm glad that you came on board um, and joined me in this conversation. We gotta definitely have you on for more
Aw,
conversations like this.
thanks.
Um, you
And
know,
thanks.
how'd you feel about the whole live stream today?
To be honest, I was kind of panicking on the inside.
Oh
Um,
no!
no, not in a bad way necessarily, but I think that's one of the most interesting things about myself. Um, I I for some reason I feel like really nervous sometimes, but then I also, when I perform and when I do music therapy, I feel like there's even a stronger resolution to continue doing what I'm doing. So I think that the two things coexisting at the same time is kind of weird, but at the same time, I feel like it's maybe just to kind of show that it's something that I can continue to do and persevere through. That's kind of also a little personal goal of mine.
Yeah. Well,
But
today, Miss Gaines, we had a small number of people in the chat room, but this video will get viewed a lot more afterwards, and then I'm gonna personally send this video to various groups that I'm a part of, and I'm going to probably try to see if I can put this into like a music therapy group on Facebook, or some type of group where people will
yeah.
gravitate towards it. Now we're already we are on LinkedIn. I put this into my LinkedIn page, but
Hmm.
you'll see this video grow some more when I place it in various areas, especially in areas where people are interested in music, because this is relevant. Because, like I said, usually the stuff that I do on here can be polarizing, and people like the stuff that's sexy. This subject that we're talking about is not a sexy subject for a lot of people who like to watch YouTube videos, in terms of people who are into like the train wreck type stuff, right? Like boom, bam, right? It isn't sexy because it's very educational, but it's something that Black people need to be aware of as it relates to therapy, treatment, how music therapy is a big part of one's life. Let me go back and restate this again. Music therapy is useful because music triggers whole brain processes and functions which directly affect one's cognitive, emotional, and physical functions and abilities with the newest understanding of neuroplastics model. Music therapy has become a core strategy used in leading rehabilitation, education, and wellness programs in
Mhm.
this country. That is true. Ms. Gaines, why don't you go ahead and do this? If you want to, let people know. I should have got your Twitter and put it and made a little banner for your Twitter, but tell people where they can find you on Twitter or on Instagram. Um, I'm actually going to have some private conversation with you because I think that me and you have a good chemistry.
Mhm.
And I think what I want to do is I want to get you involved with some of my podcasting. I need to get you in the mix with talking to you about a variety of different subjects. It may not mean that we're going to be on YouTube all the time. It might mean that we're going to be talking on podcasts. And when you get back to California, we got to get together somewhere and do a podcast out and about. I'll bring my equipment. I need to get you in the mix because I see your talent, your energy, and I
Aw.
think that we need to do this cannot be the one time that we do something like this together, but I think I need to probably consider really getting you into the mix with what I'm doing. I need to get you involved in it. If that's something that you would be interested in doing with me, let me know. Think it over.
Will do.
Because I think you have great insight and I love the subject that we've been talking about. So with that said, you have anything you want to let people know where they can find you? Go ahead if you would.
Well, I actually don't have a Twitter. But if you are interested in maybe keeping up with my music therapy journey, my Instagram handle is EIOU period sometimes Y. You'll get the joke maybe. Um, Other than that, I think one question that sometimes comes up, similar to other people seeking therapy, is where can they find Black therapists? So in addition to just finding out more about music therapy, if you're curious, the musictherapy.org website is a good resource. And if you want a specific group tailored to Black music therapists out and about, there's a Facebook group called Black Music Therapy Professional Network.
Wait a minute. I'm going to put that in the description of this video. Black Music Therapy Network.
Professional Network.
Wow.
If you want, there's one for Black women therapists as well. DeForia Lane is a very big name as far as African American women go in music therapy. And then I think there's also, I'm blanking. Black MT Network, which is Black Music Therapy Network.org as well, is a very big site for Black music therapists and where to find one or maybe talk to one.
The reason why I need to get this quickly because I need to see if I can get this video over in their neck of the woods. So you said the Black. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can find this while I still have you on here. You say the Black
Music Therapy
Music Therapy
Network.
Oh, wow. Black Music Therapy Network Professional. I found it. Let me join the group. Hopefully they'll allow me in there.
Maybe.
I know they may say, hey, who's this guy? We don't want this guy here.
Are
He's
you
not
board
a therapist.
certified?
Well, I am a therapist, so hopefully they will. But what I want to do is I want to get the material. I'm going to try to see if I can get this video in there. They need to see this video. Hopefully. That's fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of the things that you said in the description of this video. I'll put your Instagram, if you like, in the description of this video so that people, if they want to follow you on Instagram, because if I had been thinking, I should have got your Instagram and then I could have made a little banner, but I'm going to put it in the description of the video because people look at descriptions all the time. Information Man Show, thank you. This was a breath of fresh air. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's different. It's not sexy. You know, it's not going to get people like jumping in here at the hundreds of millions of people, but It serves a purpose, and I think that purpose is to enlighten folks that will be looking at this video after this stream is over. Kujin 87, I want to thank you for being here. He says it's excellent stream and guest. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Cap, and she says thank you. Cap PY2, thank you for being here. Pro Woman, thank you for being here. Sister Raw, thank you for being here. My man Gab Talk Media for being in the house. All of you who for being here, and those that were here earlier, because I know people had to go. It's a Saturday. I thank you. Most importantly, make sure you share this video in your social media so that it can get out to more people. So share it in your Instagram, your Twitter, what have you. Excuse me. Ooh, almost about to sneeze on air here. Miss Gaines, do me a favor, since you've got all the music therapy connections, out there. Take this video, do with it what you want to do with it. You have my permission. Put it into your media, share it with your friends and family, and what have you, because we will be doing more. I will get you back on, and we will talk more about this subject matter. Because what I want to do is I want to bring you back on as you take this journey into becoming a music therapist professional.
Okay.
So I thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's been great. I've got to go do the father thing now. My daughter will be getting dropped off to me very soon, but I thank you for being here. I know I told you that I wanted to do this with you, and we had, and then some time had passed when you took your vacation time off. You probably were thinking like, "Oh, he lying. He talking about he gonna do a show with me. He just lying, just talking." But I gave you a call out of the blue because I figured let things settle down for you, let you enjoy your time with family and friends, and I said, let me come on in there and say something to you.
Thank you.
Sosa, what's going on? Sosa, peace to you, brother, for coming in here. He says, what's up, Infoman? Shouting out your guest. Thank you. This is Miss Gaines. She is a brilliant young lady. And let me just say this too, and I'm going to get on my preacher stuff here. Kirby Fire, Information Man Show, peace. Thank you for being here. Let me say something. On YouTube, we often talk about, sometimes in certain areas of YouTube, we get into these discussions about what's wrong with black men, what's wrong with black women, what's wrong with the black community. But this is a sister this is a young sister that shows an example that we do have young sisters and brothers, young black people out here that are doing fantastic things and will be doing fantastic things. And she's an example of a young lady who's got her mind on. She's focused. She knows what she wants to do. So this is an example of young people who are doing the right things. We do have young people in their 20s and their teens and that are doing great things and will be and are going to be great and are great. So we got to remember that when we talk about the negatives. This young lady to me represents a solution. We talk about problems, but we got to talk about solution. You are the solution because you said that you grew up. Let me get this correct. You grew up in a single parent family situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too deep into your business, but statistics say that when you grow up that way, you're not going to have success.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. At the most recent music therapy conference, I went to a seminar about how trauma can impact your level of success and resilience to the future. And we took one of there's an assessment test that you can give a child or an adolescent to rank their level of risk of not being successful. And I was one of the highest ranking people.
Wow.
Yeah. But I also had a really high level of resilience too. And I think that, well, for one, music in general, and then being able to continue to pursue music therapy has really been a big factor in that. So. Okay.
Wow. Yes, Empress, I had a childhood trauma and abuse. So some folks in here have gone through a lot of different things, Miss Gang. Abuse in their life, trauma in their life.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I'm glad I said that because that adds to a nice part of the program. So with that said, I'm gonna let you go, Miss Gaines. You do your thing. Have a great day. I'll be in contact with you. Once again, thank you for being here. Let me give a clap to you.
Information is power.
Tell the truth.
It's been great. You've been a gracious.
Thank
did
you
great
all.
shit. And go forth and do music therapy and change the world.
Will do. One
you.
note at a time.
One note at a time. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here, and take care of yourself. Everybody, this is the Information Man. That was Sister Gaines, Miss Gaines, who was on the program with us. Let me put her beautiful avatar on the screen. And there she is right there. I picked that picture out of her Instagram and thought it was very interesting. I did a few things to it to give it a sort of a animated cartoon type. Well, not really a cartoon, but they gave it a little added color to what was already a picture that had color to it. But I just did a few little things to it. And I want to thank everybody for being here, for enjoying the program. Everybody in the chat room, please go out and share the video with your own people that follow your channels. Share it. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna keep it real. I think there should have been a hell of a lot more people in the chat room today listening to this, because this was very interesting and powerful material. So I think that those of you who have family members, have friends, people that you run with in your crew, just share it with them. They may watch this and be very surprised. I think when people saw the title, they're probably thinking like music therapy. Oh, that doesn't sound very interesting. What about let's talk about let's talk about Jay-Z, and let's talk about them Popeye chicken sandwiches, man. That's what we want to talk about. That sounds more exciting, than music therapy. And who's this young lady, Miss Gaines? Who is she? Right? Info Man, you losing your mind. What are you doing with your channel now, man? You getting boring on us, right? So no, I think share this. I think people will definitely learn something from this. I thank you, Miss Gaines. I thank everybody for being here. This is the Information Man Show. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you.
Information is power.
Peace to everybody in the chat room that was here, and everybody that's going to be listening to the video later. Information Man Show.
Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Peace, everybody.
Information is power.
Tell the truth.
Information is power.
Goodbye, everybody. Peace.